there are some events which remain engraved on our memory forevermore, and one such is the moment when, in 1998 it must have been, a group of us went down to St. Peter's, because that was the occasion at which this new saint, known until then mainly as Edith Stein because of her work in philosophy, became St. Edith Stein. And of course it was a Polish Pope who made that happen, as he had already wanted that this other person who had been martyred at Auschwitz around the same period, Maximilian Kolbe, these two should be not just witnesses to the faith, but indeed martyrs. I believe it was Paul VI who personally made that decision by coming out in red when it came to the canonization of Maximilian Kolbe, because there was some uncertainty as to what he would be. But when we think about these saints, we think that they had the same instruments of glory as we did. In fact, that's what hit me in this canonization ceremony, that these had exactly what we had to conquer eternity: time and breath, bodies and work, prayer and a soul to be sanctified. What happened in that time was that in a very short period of time, really, a huge number of souls went into the beyond in a small space, Auschwitz. And we forget, actually, some of the atrocities that preceded their departure unto glory. One of our lecturers at university was an expert on Judaism and relations between Christians and Jews and ancient literature on both sides. And he knew the inside story of Auschwitz and would sometimes quote strange things. One day he was describing one horrid scene, this which your husband has put together in this play of the life of Edith Stein, has pictures which move us to tears. And one is precisely the entrance, and of course it says over it, doesn't it, Arbeit macht frei, work makes free, gives liberty, some freedom. But this person was coming apparently into this scene, and what did he see when he got there? He saw a baby, probably about the age of this little child there, little angel that you have in your lap, being thrown into the air, and then to be thrown, I think, into a furnace of fire. It was hell on earth, created by man, and an interesting experiment in dabbling with the demon. It would seem, we're not quite sure, that the powers given to the Führer himself were not just human or explicable in terms of sociology. There may well have been some collusion with demonic powers. And that would explain a lot of things, because when one thinks about what actually happened in a short time, it is actually of satanic origin. That there can be an increase in a small amount of time in unhappiness and pain and, as I say, hell on earth. And it's good that they have left that bit of hell on earth open for the gazing eye, rooms where experiments would take place, and so on and so forth. In a few days' time we will celebrate the other great saint of recent times of Auschwitz, Maximilian Kolbe. Contemporary evidence bears out that after that human sacrifice, voluntary in his case, of giving his life for someone else, the atrocities somehow came down a notch, as though there had been healing through that human sacrifice. And there are also stories of things that would happen amongst themselves, of heroic charity amongst the prisoners, and what they would not do to have access to some sacrament. Priests were very precious in there. I would just like to leave you with one thought. When we were there in St. Peter's Square, and this apostolic power was proclaiming infallibly, therefore, because the whole authority of the Holy Spirit is engaged, that this was a saint in glory, it was done in such a way that somehow at a certain point in time our souls were transported into that glory. It is difficult to explain, but one sometimes, I suppose the use of that faculty which we have as believers, the sense of the faithful, one is given a notion, wow, and as though goose pimples come, this is for real, and God is here, and this is glory. It's aided by the use of beautiful singing and beautiful music, but there's more to it than that. Just the other day, I was gazing at the Bishop's Secretary's invitation at a few clips of our local Father Dennis being ordained a bishop, and at the point of what? Crossing the Rubicon, in a sense, when then he's a priest and then he's a bishop, one felt the same thing. Wow! The power of the upper room coming down. It happens occasionally in our life. I remember it happened just at the moment, the very moment actually, at which the Archbishop of Siena placed his hand on me. It was in that case for the priesthood in Siena Cathedral. There were two of us, and there was a point in time when it was not just an emotion, but one actually sensed there's something happening. I'm being ontologically changed at this point. And I remember actually it was very unexpected. It wasn't fabricated, but for one fraction in time, I sensed that my soul was being pulled into the Blessed Trinity, stamped and changed indelibly and brought back down. It was something like that, because it was not calculated or meant to happen. It just came. And these things are received and not fabricated. But that is the power that we have in the one true church, despite anything which is not right, because anything which is not right, precisely as in Auschwitz, is our problem. We've messed things up. You can't blame God for Auschwitz, and you can't blame God for the problems that we get into in the church. We've got the means of grace, but we're messing things up. It's our problem, and people don't have enough faith to see the difference. They're very childish in the way they argue. Throwing stones at the church is throwing stones at ourselves. The church is not a museum for saints, but a hospital for sinners. And throw stones at it means you're throwing stones at the means of getting into heaven. It's just childish logic. We're all with the problem. So I just leave you with that, my friends, because it is kind of important that we have the same instruments to conquer glory or to create hell.